Hello, welcome to Critical Joke Theory with your host, G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humorist. Now with new joke technology. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humorist at Large, but I'm losing weight. Welcome to Critical Joke Theory, episode 100. Now with new joke technology and 13% more snark, and still open caption for the humor impaired. Boxing legend Big George Foreman has died at the age of 76. George Foreman's cause of death appears to be undisclosed. Undisclosed is the number 3 cause of celebrity deaths behind regrettable tweets and joining MAGA. George Foreman, who died Friday in a Houston hospital, was larger than life in just about every sense of the word as a boxer, businessman, minister, broadcaster, author, and father of 12. George had 7 daughters and 5 sons. All 5 of his sons were named George Edward Foreman. Foreman said in an interview about naming his sons George, quote, "I named all my sons George Edward Foreman so they would always have something in common. I say to them, if one of us goes up, then we all go up together. And if one goes down, we all go down together," close quote. It's also rumored that he called his penis George Foreskin. As a boxer, Foreman's legacy is nearly untouchable, nearly because there were some losses. He rose from poverty in the segregated South as a junior high school dropout who would go on to become an Olympic gold medalist in 1968 and a 2-time heavyweight champion by essentially authoring 2 Hall of Fame careers in one over the span of 3 decades. Foreman also completed one of the greatest comebacks in sports history in 1994 when at the age of 45 he knocked out Michael Moorer to become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. Michael Moorer became the man who lost his title to an old man, the second most humiliating defeat caught on video. Foreman's life story was depicted in 2023's Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. And to generations of non-sports fans, Foreman was the celebrity pitchman behind the wildly successful George Foreman Lean Machine Fat-Reducing Grill Machine, which sold over 100 million units over 3 decades and reportedly netted Foreman upwards of $200 million. On a personal note, my sister bought 3 of those grills as Christmas gifts, one each for her daughter, our mother, and our brother. And they worked out great. My sister got me the knockoff version, the Mike Tyson grill. Not so great. It tore off chunks of meat every time I used it. Foreman retired from boxing with a record of 76-5 with 68 knockouts. Well, George, you are now 76-6, but don't feel bad. No one beats death. Catherine Kitty Dukakis, the former First Lady of Massachusetts and the wife of 1988 Democratic presidential nominee Michael Dukakis, has died at the age of 88 from complications of dementia. Kitty Dukakis battled addiction and depression, advocated for people without homes or nations, and championed the presidential campaign of her husband Michael. A statement in the New York Times said she, quote, lived a full life fighting to make the world a better place and sharing her vulnerabilities to help others face theirs, close quote. And let's not forget dementia, the fact that Kitty Dukakis was criticized for being overbearing in her advocacy for causes, including her husband's career. Quote, have you ever heard the words assertive or aggressive used to describe the male spouse of a candidate? Close quote. She once asked the Los Angeles Times, quote, I think there's a real double standard when it comes to strong, assertive women, close quote, or what Trump calls a nasty woman. Rest in peace, Kitty. Or as they may say at the pearly gates, hello, Kitty. Former U.S. Representative Mia Love, who sold her soul to become the first Black woman elected to Congress as a Republican, passed away following a fight with glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer. She was 49 when she died. She was 39 when she sold her soul. Her family wrote in a statement on X, quote, she was in her home surrounded by family. In the midst of a celebration of her life and an avalanche of happy memories, Mia, quietly slipped the bands of mortality, and as her words and vision always did, soared heavenward. We are thankful for the many good wishes, prayers, and condolences. While Mia Love did criticize convicted felon unregistered sex offender public housing resident Donald Trump, she only did it because he criticized her first for losing her congressional reelection bid. Mia Love appeared on The View for 4 episodes and appeared as a pundit on Anderson Cooper 360, Aaron Burnett Out Front, and State of the Union with Candy Crowley before her death, because after her death would be awkward. Rest in peace, Mia. I hope you enjoy The View. Pretends a lot Donald Trump, seen here making a number two on the first of many constitutional amendments, has made good on his promise of revoking security clearance for former President Joe Biden. Issued late last Friday night, a memo titled Rescinding Security Clearances and Access to Classified Information from Specified Individuals laid out Trump's instructions for Biden, several members of the Biden administration, and other political rivals to have their security clearances rescinded. Trump determined it was, quote, no longer in the national interest, close quote, for said individuals to still hold, quote, any active security clearance, close quote, or unescorted access to government facilities. Quote, this action includes but is not limited to receipt of classified briefings such as the President's daily brief and access to classified information held by any member of the intelligence community by virtue of the named individual's previous tenure in the Congress. Close quote, the memo reads. The action was applied to Biden and any other member of Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s family. Joining the former president on this list was his former Vice President Kamala Harris. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was also listed, alongside former Secretary of State Antony Blinken, former National Security Advisor Jacob Sullivan, and former Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. In addition, New York Attorney General Letitia James and the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, both of whom prosecuted Trump, as well as Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Republicans and former representatives who served on the committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, were added to the list of people who will have such privileges rescinded. The memo also includes Alexander Vindman, the former Director of European Affairs for the National Security Council. Alexander Vindman, in response to Trump's action, stated that Vindman hasn't had a security clearance for 5 years, and so Vindman is revoking Trump's revocation in an equally meaningless gesture. However, Vindman and the others may still be invited to participate in group chats discussing highly sensitive and at times classified topics on Signal. To be honest, with the Musk-Trump administration being in charge of security clearances, all we have to do is check out the classified ads to learn the latest government secrets. Hunter Biden and his half-sister Ashley Biden will be stripped of their Secret Service protection, Donald Trump was all too gleeful to announce. Quote, Hunter Biden has had Secret Service protection for an extended period of time, all paid for by the United States taxpayer, close quote. President Trump wrote on his social media website, Far From Truth Social, quote, he is currently vacationing in, of all places, South Africa, where the human rights of people has been strenuously questioned, close quote, as opposed to Trump running our country, where the human rights of people has been strenuously questioned. The directive will remove 18 agents assigned to protect Hunter and 13 who guard Ashley, Trump wrote. Only former presidents and their spouses receive lifelong security service protection, while coverage for their immediate family members typically ends when they leave office under government policy. It's unclear why Hunter, 54, and Ashley, 43, continue to receive Secret Service protection after former President Joe Biden left office earlier this year. The White House didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that Trump was too busy gutting the government. DeJoy had said last month he planned to step down but hadn't set a date. He leaves an agency with an uncertain future. Mr. Trump has said he is considering putting USPS under the control of the Commerce Department in an attempt to stop losses at the $78 billion a year agency, which has struggled at times to balance the books with the decline of first class mail. For those of you who do not know this, the United States Postal Service is not supposed to be profitable. It is designed to provide the same quality of service and deliver the mail no matter where in the United States you live. The mail gets delivered to everyone. Sometimes it's to cluster boxes, and sometimes it's a clusterfuck. Deputy Postmaster General Doug Tolino will take on the role until the Postal Service Board of Governors names a permanent replacement for DeJoy, who became Postmaster General in the summer of 2020 during Mr. Trump's first term. He was a Republican donor who owned a logistics business and was the first person to hold the position in nearly 2 decades who was not a career postal employee. You know, one of the best people that Trump knows. Convicted felon, unregistered sex offender, public housing resident Donald Trump said Thursday he was pulling the nomination of Representative Elise Stefanik, representative from New York, to be the United States ambassador to the United Nations, citing concerns that the House has slim margin to enact his legislative agenda. What the fuck does he care about the House and the Senate? He's an emperor legislating by executive orders. Trump said in a post on Far From Truth Social that Stefanik, quote, will stay in Congress, close quote, after her nomination for the administration post had stalled for months. I've asked Elise, as one of my biggest allies, to remain in Congress and to help me deliver historic tax cuts, great jobs, record economic growth, a secure border, energy dominance, peace through strength, and much more, so we can make America great again, close quote. Aside from body shaming Stefanik by calling her one of his biggest allies, that's not the reason he pulled her nomination. Stefanik represented a safe district, and her replacement would have been a Republican. He was fine with that for 2 months. Now, because of Trump's asinine practices, that district is likely to replace her with a Democrat, according to recent polls. That's why he pulled her nomination. Trump continued, quote, there are others that can do a good job at the United Nations, close quote. That may be, but he won't nominate any of them. Quote, therefore, Elisa will stay in Congress, rejoin the House leadership team, and continue to fight for our amazing American people, close quote. And by amazing American people, he means the rich white ones. On Friday, March 28th, a devastating earthquake rocked Myanmar and neighboring Thailand, leaving more than 150 people dead in Myanmar, according to the Associated Press. The 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck its epicenter, Mandalay, Myanmar, at midday, toppling buildings, destroying a 90-year-old bridge, and breaching a dam. Afterward, according to CNN, a 6.4 magnitude aftershock hit Myanmar and created tremors that were felt across Thailand and China. The complete impact of the earthquake, including casualties and damages, is difficult to determine, especially in Myanmar, which faces the dual challenges of poverty and political unrest. So far, 9 fatalities have been reported in Thailand, and the death toll is certain to rise after a skyscraper under construction in Bangkok was toppled and some workers have gone missing. In Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, at least 144 were killed and 732 injured. Even more if Myanmar government counted the Rohingya Muslims, but they don't. Trump said that he is going to send help. In the pre-Doge past, USAID would be in charge of dispensing foreign aid. Now Trump may have to throw those paper towels himself. Donald Trump made official Wednesday his long-promised tariffs for the automotive industry, imposing a 25% import tariff on all cars, light-duty trucks, and some car parts imported into the United States. Trump argued the tariffs will boost domestic manufacturing by forcing American automakers to build cars in the United States. The presidential proclamation enacted the tariffs goes into effect April 3rd. Here's what we know about the automotive tariffs so far. They're fucking stupid. We're battling high prices on goods and services right now, today. Adding a tariff will cause the prices of whatever the tariffs are on to increase today. It takes about 3 to 5 years and $1 to $2 billion to build an automotive plant. In order for that much time and money to be invested, the builders and investors are going to need to see long-term gain. If you want to encourage them to build in the United States, tie their tax breaks and subsidies to the number of United States jobs they create and to the percentage of the car that is actually built and assembled in the United States. Punish the greedy fucks that sent the jobs abroad, not the working people in the United States who need the jobs. Trump can't see this because he's a tariffist, trying to use tariffism to change, influence, or strike fear into the government. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney blasted Donald Trump's tariffs on imported vehicles and parts, saying Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs that will have maximum impact on the USA. Canada is advertising on American billboards in several states as part of the campaign against tariffs imposed by United States pretends-a-lot Donald Trump on Canadian goods. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says the initiative aims to raise awareness among Americans about the negative economic impact of these tariffs on these expenses such as groceries and fuel. The campaign targets 12 Republican-leaning states, including Florida, Nevada, Georgia, New Hampshire, Michigan, and Ohio, where trade with Canada is significant. The billboards feature messages like "Tariffs are a tax on hardworking Americans" and "Tariffs are a tax on your grocery bill," emphasizing that the trade policies will hurt American livelihoods and wallets. Well, Canada, maybe you can reason with them, because I sure as hell can't. 23andMe has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection to help the genetic testing company facilitate a sale amid years of financial issues as a result of spitting in the wind. Its co-founder and CEO Ann Wojcicki was resigned as the struggling genetic testing company continues to push to cut costs, having already laid off 40% of its staff. She had to spit or get off the pot. Joseph Savage, Chief Financial Accounting Officer, has been appointed as Interim Chief Executive Officer. Spit happens. The California-based company has struggled to find a profitable business model since going public in 2021. I'm just spitballing here, but shouldn't you figure out your business model for making money before you go public? The company said Sunday it will look to sell substantially all of its assets through a court-approved reorganization plan. Let's see who has the money to buy it and is interested in owning our personal data. There must be someone. It's on the tip of my tongue if I can just spit it out. News of the company's financial struggles have prompted concerns about the future of the customer's sensitive data. If you are a client of 23andMe and you want to delete your data before someone you do not want to have it owns it, here's how you can delete your data. 1. Sign into your 23andMe account. 2. Go to account settings. 3. Click 23andMe data. 4. Click view. 5. Click delete data. 6. Click permanently delete data. 7. Confirm request. After submitting a request, a user will receive an email detailing the 23andMe account deletion policy, in addition to a further request for confirmation. Upon email confirmation, a user will then lose account access. In the future, please be mindful about who you trust with your DNA. I know it's only spit, but that's how it starts, swapping spit. And now for the full court press release. The Supreme Court on Wednesday upheld a Biden administration effort to regulate ghost gun kits that allow people to easily obtain parts needed to assemble firearms from online sellers. The ruling was 7-2, with, you guessed it, Alito and Thomas voting against it, the impurist jurists. The regulation has been in effect since August 2022. Its litigation has made its way through the court system, with the Supreme Court in August 2023 refusing to put it on hold. Manufacturers and sellers have to obtain licenses, mark products with serial numbers, and require background checks and maintain records. The Trump administration could seek to rescind the rule if it wishes to, but right now, they are pissing off so many people, it would not be in their best interest. Ours, maybe, but not theirs. Two Democratic members of the Federal Trade Commission, Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Alvaro Bedoya, who were fired by Trump, sued him this week, saying their removals are in direct violation of a century of federal law and Supreme Court precedent. To which Trump said, "I'm the president." Quote, plaintiffs bring this action to vindicate their right to serve the remainder of their respective terms, to defend the integrity of the commission, and to continue their work for the American people, close quote, said the lawsuit filed by Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Alvaro Bedoya in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. The FTC, which regulates major tech companies such as Facebook, Amazon, and Tesla, has also recently cracked down on junk fees, including those for concert tickets and hotel resort fees, and simplified the process for unsubscribing from hard-to-cancel services like gym memberships. The board usually consists of 5 members, 3 from the president's party and 2 from the opposition. It's anyone's guess why Trump fired only the 2 Democratic members of the board and not any of the Republican members. If I didn't know any better, I would think that Trump was trying to influence the ongoing investigations into rich Republican donors. A federal appeals court upheld the pause on Donald Trump's order to deport Venezuelans accused of being members of the crime gang Trump de la Margo. Oh, my bad. Tren de Aragua, under the Alien Enemies Act. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the 1798 law gave presidents, quote, near blanket authority, close quote, to determine and deport any non-citizen from a country at war with the United States. However, the 3-judge panel ruled the invasion had to come from a foreign government rather than a gang. The next hearing is April 8th, so the members of the Trump de Mar-a-Lago gang are allowed to stay for now. A judge ruled on Friday afternoon that a Tufts graduate student, Turkish national Rumase Ozturk, detained by federal immigration authorities, cannot be deported while her case is being decided. As if Trump cares. Turkish national Rumasa, and that's how I'm going to pronounce it now, Ozturk, is a resident of Somerville with a valid F1 student status, is being held at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center in Basel, Louisiana. Rumasa Ozturk was snatched up like a scene from that movie, Invasion of the Immigrant Snatchers. Ice, ice, baby. And finally, my Said-It-Torial. Okay, I'm calling this one New Chat Houthis. Unless you've been living under a rock or are stuck on stupid sources for your information, you have heard about members of Trump's military and intelligence departments using Signal and personal phones to discuss attack plans against the Houthis and including the Atlantic's Jeff Goldberg in the chat. Now, if you get your information from conservative media, first, welcome, and please feel free to comment and like and share. And second, I'm sure that you've been misled as to the gravity of the situation. In conservative circles, the focus was on the Atlantic journalist Jeff Goldberg, who, despite being accidentally included in the chat and not being a government official, acted in the most responsible manner. Then eventually it became an attack of semantics. It wasn't war plans, it was an attack. It wasn't classified, it was sensitive. It wasn't illegal, it was distasteful. It wasn't me, it was them. The Trump administration and the 18 people involved in the chat, including Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Central Intelligence Agency Director John Ratcliffe, none of whom should have been confirmed and all of whom broke the law and need to be held accountable. and there should be investigations and/or prosecutions under the Espionage Act, and here's why. That law does not require information to be classified. It allows for the prosecution of anyone who releases national defense information. The law also allows for charges against those who intentionally and/or inadvertently release national security information. Also, they violated the Federal Records Act. The Federal Records Act is a federal law that establishes the framework for federal records management, including the creation, maintenance, and disposition of records. Its purpose is to ensure that records of vital historical, fiscal, and legal value are identified and preserved, providing a historical record of federal decision making. The Act governs how federal agencies determine what qualifies as a federal record and how those records are collected, retained, and eventually destroyed or transferred to the National Archives. These conversations were not intended to be preserved, and but for the diligence of Jeff Goldberg, we would not have the records that we do. CIA Director Ratcliffe leaked the name of an active undercover CIA officer, which is classified. Google, Scooter Libby, and Valerie Plame. He did so over what he surely knew was an unsecured app, while Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, also part of the Signal chat, was in Russia, supposedly unbeknownst to Ratcliffe, and on his personal phone, and also while a journalist had been inappropriately added to the group. Now, Trump and the gang that couldn't chat straight want you to focus on the success of the mission. That's irrelevant. They want you to focus on Hillary Clinton's emails from a decade ago. That's irrelevant. They want you to focus on the handful of boxes in Biden's garage. That's irrelevant. Now, Clinton and Biden and Pence, oh, they left out Pence. I wonder why. Hmm. Well, they were all investigated and cleared in the end. Do you know who wasn't mentioned or cleared? Donald Trump. Pam Bondi said, quote, I don't think foreign adversaries are able to hack Signal as far as I know, close quote. While data being transferred inside the Signal network is encrypted, that same data is not encrypted once in the phones. And Signal also uses third-party apps which have their own user and privacy policies. I only know this because I read the Signal app's rules and conditions policy. The first app policy that I have read since, well, let's just say it was on my Motorola flip phone, the one without a camera, and I had to pay for minutes before 5 p.m. Pam Bondi indicated that there is no need for an investigation. Quote, first, it was sensitive information, not classified, and inadvertently released. And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission, close quote. She said this on Thursday. However, last week, Pam Bondi opened a criminal investigation into the leak of information to the New York Times about an intelligence assessment dealing with Venezuela. Also, a Department of Homeland Security staffer who inadvertently added a journalist to an email thread about an impending operation was placed on leave. Former ICE Chief of Staff Jason Hauser told NBC News that the longtime federal employee, whose identity remains anonymous, told colleagues he mistakenly included the reporter in a message about unclassified plans regarding an upcoming immigration and customs enforcement operation in Denver in late January. The staffer, once she realized her error, contacted the reporter, explained the situation, and the reporter did not release the information. That staffer took responsibility for her actions. Contrast that to these cabinet officials, and you know this is not the first time they use Signal, and it won't be the last. Waltz says he learned a lesson. A lesson. I bet that lesson is next time, don't get caught. Trump says he still trusts Waltz. After all, Trump knows the best people. Well, I wish he'd call them, because if these are his best people, then his best people are making the worst mistakes. There should be a DOJ investigation, but there won't be, because according to Fox, not that Fox, according to this Fox, the chickens are just fine. Trust me. That was my Said-It-Torial, and I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist, now with new joke technology and 13% more snark. Thank you for watching Critical Joke Theory, where our motto is I purport, you decide if you decided right. If you enjoyed it, please like and share it. And please check out Done Way Past Funny on YouTube, Knob TV, and Spark TV. Also watch the Church of Last Resort streaming live on Sundays on YouTube at 9 a.m. Eastern. Feel free to check out my website at www.sogdfunny.com to access more of my content. Be safe out there, and don't feed the crazies. Critical Joke Theory with your host, GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist. Now with new joke technology.